Greetings from Variable Oscillations. This is SNIDxs, a pocket-sized patchable modular synthesizer. In this video, I'll be going over what exactly this instrument is, the various submodules that it contains, and how those submodules can be patched together to produce different sounds. We'll start with the name, SNID, as it is an acronym based on the instrument's functionality, Sinusoidal Numeric Incremental Device. Sinusoidal relates to the oscillators. There are two, both of which are based around sine waves. Numeric incremental refers to the binary counter or clock divider, and lastly, device because it is a thing with a purpose, to create sounds. The XS on the end stands for excessively small because as far as self-contained modular synthesizers go, this one is on the smaller and more portable side. It can be powered with a 3-volt coin cell battery or with 5 volts by the mini USB jack, which I'll use for the time being. There is a small switch to choose between the power sources, and if powered by a 3-volt battery instead, the voltage levels will be slightly lower, and as a result, certain patches may sound a bit different. Below the power connections is the main 3.5mm headphone audio output. On the opposite side is a clip for carrying the patch cables, and a second TRS 3.5mm jack for bringing external control voltages, or CV, into the patching area through these two patch points. The top patch point is routed to the tip of the TRS jack and the bottom patch point to the ring. Looking at the rest of the patch bay, there are two types of patch points, those with a circle around them, which output a signal, and those without, which are inputs. The exception here are the two CV patch points that can either be inputs or outputs, depending on what is connected to the CV TRS jack. An important note here is that the control voltage range of SNIDxs is 0 to 5 volts. If you are connecting any external voltages, it is best to know their range and not patch in anything that goes into negative levels or beyond the upper 5 volts. Now, let's take a look at the submodules of the synthesizer, the parts that create and modify the voltage signals and resulting sounds. There are 4 submodules: the wave multiplier oscillator, the sine wave oscillator, a pair of attenuators, and the clock divider. Each of the submodules have both a number of knobs and patch points to control their parameters, which are indicated by the lines grouping them together. Looking at the first submodule, the wave multiplier oscillator, the dotted line indicates the signal that is generated and where it goes, to the 3.5mm output jack. The knob along this line controls the amplitude or volume of the signal, and by turning it up, the oscillator becomes audible. The knob above the amplitude is the frequency control for the oscillator, and the knob to the right is the comparator, which controls the sine wave feeding back on itself. Changing both of these parameters simultaneously gives somewhat unwieldy results as it causes drastic changes to the sound the oscillator generates. Following the lines from these 3 knobs leads to the 3 input patch points for them. If a signal is patched into these, it will affect the parameters. Above those is the output patch point for the oscillator. Looking now at the sine wave oscillator, the signal, visible by the indicator LED, can be accessed through the 2 output patch points with circles around them. The lower left output has an amplitude control, like the wave multiplier signal going to the audio jack, and the top right output is the full signal unaffected by the amplitude control. The sine wave also has a frequency control and can go from sub-audio to audio rates, but needs to be patched to the output jack in order to be heard. Any of the 3 parameters of the wave multiplier can be controlled by patching the sine wave to their inputs, and the amount can be set by using the sine wave output with the amplitude control. The 2 bottom input patch points of the sine wave oscillator act in the same way as those of the wave multiplier to control amplitude and frequency. The top input patch point is the sync input for the oscillator. If a signal is patched into this jack, the sine wave becomes tied to the wave multiplier and will reset depending on the state of the wave multiplier waveform. To the right of the sine wave oscillator are the attenuators, which act similarly to the amplitude controls for the oscillators. The level of a signal can be controlled by patching it into the input patch point, and the attenuated output can then be routed elsewhere. This is useful if you'd like to modulate different parameters by the same source by different amounts. The last submodule is the clock divider, which runs along the top and right side of the synthesizer. It functions by taking a signal into the input patch point on the left and outputs square wave divisions by powers of 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, etc. It starts at a division of 2 on the right side, which also has an indicator LED and amplitude control like the oscillators, and working left goes to a division of 512. By patching the output of the sine wave into the clock divider, the first division can be made visible by the indicator. If the first division along with the sine wave are both patched to the audio output, it can be heard that the clock divider's output is an octave lower than the sine wave. By patching together all the submodules, it is possible to create a rudimentary sequencer. The sine wave oscillator determines the rate of the clock divider, and the various divisions are passed through attenuators to control the wave multiplier frequency. By tuning the frequency of the wave multiplier, the two attenuators, and the amplitude control of the clock divider's first division, the tones in the sequence can be adjusted. And by selecting different divisions, the pattern can be changed. I hope this video has been helpful in providing some insight into what exactly a SNIDxs is, how it functions, and a small glimpse into some of its sonic capabilities. Thank you for watching.